Red wave swept the country this week, giving Republicans control of Congress, including their first Senate majority since 2006. We want to introduce you to some of the new members of the Senate as the GOP sets its agenda. We'll talk with Colorado's new Senator, Cory Gardner, in a moment. But first, Congresswoman Shelley Moore Capito is West Virginia's first female senator ever, and its first Republican senator in more than half a century. Senator-elect, congratulations and welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you. Wonderful to be on.
Well, good to have you here. President Obama called you on election night, one of the few newly elected Republican senators he reached out to. Did he give you any sense that he's willing to compromise?
Well, he did say, and he congratulated me, which was very welcome, and the call was wonderful, of course. But he did say that I think that we can find common ground to help the people of West Virginia. And as you know, in West Virginia, the president is very unpopular. So I appreciate that sentiment. I want to find that common ground, and I look forward to that.
But he didn't put much meat on the bones.
Well, no, it was late. And, you know, I'm going to take what I can get at this point.
In his news conference the day after the election, the president was unwilling to say that he's going to change any of his policies or change the way he does business. And he also seemed to almost dismiss the message from the voters on Tuesday night. Take a look.
To everyone who voted, I want you to know that I hear you. To the two-thirds of voters who chose not to participate in the process yesterday, I hear you too.
Do you think the president gets it, gets how unhappy voters are with him and the Democrats?
You know, not really. With those comments that we saw right after the election, when he says he hears two-thirds of the people that are not voting, what kind of message could he possibly be getting? I think the dysfunction, the gridlock, the overreaching, certainly in my state, the overreaching by certain regulatory bodies is really, I think, eating away at the confidence in his ability to lead and an ability to get things done. And I don't believe that, you know, I want to believe that we can do this. I do believe that we can and we must. And I hope the president kind of gets on board a little bit more than he did in that first press conference.
You know, there's also a question for Republicans, and that is whether they compromise with the president or whether they confront him. And there seemed to be a split in the days after the election within the Republican Party, various comments made by the new presumptive Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Republican Tea Party favorite Ted Cruz. Let's take a look at what both of them had to say.
I want to first look for areas that we can agree on, and there probably are some.
The era of Obama lawlessness is over.
So, are you with McConnell? Let's look for areas of agreement, or with Cruz, who wants apparently to draw bright lines versus this president?
Well, let's look at one thing the president did do for the Republican Party on election night. He unified us. We have majorities, a larger majority in the House. We have the majority in the Senate. Many states, my state hasn't elected a Republican senator since 1956. So, and part of it was the dissatisfaction with the direction the president's going. I think what we would be smart to do, in my opinion, the way I want to move forward, is to score some small victories, bipartisan, with the president, showing and demonstrating to that disaffected majority of Americans out there that we can begin to solve the problems.
Such as?
Such as Keystone Pipeline, such as some tax reform. Transportation bill, a 6-year transportation bill that will get...
You think the president's going to back down on Keystone Pipeline?
I think he'd be really smart to do it when he sees a margin in the Senate of over probably 65 votes. I would hope so. I mean, if we're looking at jobs, if we're looking at infrastructure, we've got an energy growth in our country that we really need to capitalize on.
Let me talk about one of the big issues in your campaign, which was what you called the war on coal, which is obviously a big deal in coal-rich West Virginia. How aggressive are you going to be in the Senate in trying to roll back some of the EPA regulations?
Extremely aggressive. That is my promise to West Virginia. We have lost over the last 2 years 5,000 jobs. Those are just coal jobs. We have several thousand other miners who are under what's called a warn notice, meaning they're potentially going to be losing their jobs. That doesn't even count the transportation jobs, the electrician, the tire distributor, all the other jobs that go with coal mining. Coal is our baseload fuel. The president's policies is disenfranchising part of the country, my part of the country, We've been picked as a loser. I'm not going to stand for it, and rolling back the EPA regulations is the way to do it.
Finally, how do you feel about the president trying to get a lot of things done in this lame duck session of Congress? For instance, just yesterday, he nominated Loretta Lynch to be the new Attorney General. How do you feel about his effort to try to get that, her confirmed by the lame duck session, as opposed to waiting for the new Senate with members like you getting to vote on it?
I think what you see the rapid change in both houses, particularly on the Senate side, I think you're going to see a lot of this pushed to the first of the year. I think that will give us the time to have the debate and deliberation that the Senate hasn't had over the last 4 years, that we need to have, whether it's a nominee for Attorney General.
Do you think it would be a mistake to try to push her, jam her through in this session?
I do. I think that if we're going to have an era of good faith here, we need to begin with the confirmation process for one of the most important jobs in the country, and that's the Attorney General.
Senator-elect Capito, thank you. Thanks for coming in, and please come back.
I will love to. Thank you.
Good. Now, let's meet another of the new GOP senators in the battleground state of Colorado. Cory Gardner ousted Democratic incumbent Mark Udall. Senator-elect Gardner, congratulations to you, and welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Well, thank you, and thanks for having me on.
I want to start with the question that I asked Senator-elect Capito. Do you think, from what you've heard since the election, do you think the president gets what voters were saying on election night?
Well, time will tell. Look, what I saw in Colorado on election night wasn't so much about Republicans or Democrats, but it was about a rejection of the failed ways of Washington. And the Democrats happen to be in charge of the Senate and the president. So the fact is, if the president doesn't recognize that people are dissatisfied with the direction of Washington, then he's going to have a challenge over the next couple of years. And
what message, Senator-elect, do you think that voters were sending Republicans? Do you think it was a mandate, or do you think, in a sense, it was kind of hold your nose and they dislike you less than they dislike the president and the Democrats?
Well, the mandate was this. People don't like dysfunction. They don't like gridlock. They don't like the way that Washington is working. And so in 2 years from now, if Republicans don't prove that we can govern with maturity, that we can govern with competence, we'll see the same kind of results 2 years from now, except it'll be a wave going back a different direction.
In your campaign, you reached out to Hispanics who make up 14% of the voters in your state of Colorado, and you did very well in a lot of the areas of Colorado where they live. Since the election, perhaps the biggest issue has been the president's statement, his determination that he is going to sign this executive order deferring the deportation of millions of people who are in this country illegally now. Here is some of the debate over that issue.
What I'm not going to do is just wait. I think it's fair to say that I've shown a lot of patience.
I believe that the president continues to act on his own. He is going to poison the well. When you play with matches, you take the risk of burning yourself.
Senator-elect, do you worry that Republicans are going to once again be seen, when all of this is over, once again be seen as anti-Hispanic and anti-immigration?
Well, I think what we have to do is make sure that we work with the president, show a willingness in the House and the Senate to work together so that the president can ultimately do the right thing. The right thing for the president to do isn't going around Congress, but it's working with Congress. And so I think that's the challenge that this new era of goodwill, so to speak, presents itself for us. We have to make sure that the president is willing to do the right thing, and that means that Congress, the House, the Senate, are willing to show an effort to work together. I think ultimately that's how we have immigration reform, and we have to continue our outreach efforts in every community in our country, in every community in states like Colorado, to make sure that they have the confidence that we're going to look out for them and be a strong voice for them, regardless of where they are from.
But what's going to happen when the president, and he says he's going to do it sometime before the end of the year, signs this executive order, goes around Congress?
Well, I hope the president, between now and whenever that is, will change his mind, will decide to do the right thing.
And if he doesn't?
That means Mitch McConnell, Leader Boehner. Again, we have to encourage him to do the right thing. I don't want to speculate about an executive order that may or may not exist, but the bottom line is this. We know we need immigration reform in this country because the system isn't working at what we have right now. But the president to encourage working together, to encourage a way to go forward, If he does this, then I'm concerned that he won't be doing the right thing, and that would hurt our ability to move forward the next 2 years. Let's do the right thing. Let's work together. Let's find solutions. That's what the people of Colorado are looking for. In large part, that's why we were able to achieve victory, because we presented that positive, optimistic vision for this country, and that's what the president needs to do.
Well, let's talk about doing the right thing on immigration. The Hispanic vote did not play a big role in the midterms, but you know as well as I do, they're going to play a very big role because Hispanics tend to vote more in presidential elections. They're going to play a big role in 2016. How do Republicans get on the right side of the immigration issue for what is the fastest growing voting bloc in the nation?
Well, when you look at the issues that the Hispanic community cares about, in Pueblo County, Colorado, I basically tied Senator Udall. That's one of the largest Hispanic populations in the state, in one of the largest counties in the state. And we did it because we talked about issues that mattered to every community, including the Hispanic community, whether it was education, growing jobs and opportunity, making sure that children aren't trapped in a failing school system.
But
that's
sir,
the kind of message that we have to send around the state.
Specifically on immigration, aren't Republicans going to have to do something when it comes to legalization of the millions who are already here?
Well, I think when it comes to immigration, we've talked about border security. Let's start with border security, as so many people are asking for. But border security in and of itself is not complete unless you have a meaningful guest worker program to go along with it, to create that way for a legal avenue of labor. We have to make sure that we're fixing the entry-exit systems, making sure we're addressing E-Verify systems. Those are things that Republicans can and should do right now. That, I think, is something that the House, the Senate, and the President can work together. So let's do the right thing. Let's take those steps where I think there is a broad agreement that we can get behind and make sure that we are doing the right thing.
Finally, and we have less than a minute left, for all the talk about the Republican Senate, you're going to find out very quickly. I know you already know it, but I suspect you're not fully up to how frustrating it's going to be. You're going to need a lot of Democratic votes to hit that 60-vote super majority to get anything done. Any thoughts about how to break the gridlock in the Senate?
I've worked closely with Gary Peters, Senator-elect from Michigan, done a lot of energy efficiency work with Ron Wyden from Oregon. It is about relationships. It's about putting those things on the president's desk that have broad bipartisan support. Let's start first with putting those kinds of solutions like the Keystone Pipeline, like repeal of the medical device tax on the president's desk. And let's show that we can do it with Republicans and Democrats and prove to the American people that Washington learned its lesson. And that will ultimately help Republicans in 2016 when it comes to our nominee.
Senator-elect Gardner, we want to thank you so much for talking with us. Please come and visit us when you're in Washington.
We'll do it. Thank you.